Craigslist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard.
I'm Steve Morris.
How's it going, Steve?
Doing well, Tim. How about you?
Yeah, not bad.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, you know, I do it every time.
You do?
105 times now. I believe it's the 105th show.
It's a lot. It's been doing this about a year now?
Close to it, yeah. Yeah, almost, yeah. I think so. It's kind of crazy. Our show 103, so not Wednesdays, but Tuesday's show, 291 views. And the show we did on Wednesday, 123, which, but that 291 is the highest we've ever gotten without the little fake bot thing that we knew was
China was infiltrating our show.
India or something.
Somewhere.
Some weird thing. Yeah, it's another warm day out. Hopefully continues. Snow is melting rapidly.
It is. My garden looks like it's about ready for me to go out there and start piddling around, picking up some rocks, even though I'm going to pick them up and then I'm going to till it and then it's going to put a whole new layer of rocks. But at least if I get rid of these.
It's New England. You just keep rototilling and every year rocks come up. It's like, am I growing rocks?
Well, even like walking up to my wood pile, the ice, I guess the way it was this winter, pushed a whole bunch of good size, 6-8 inch rocks up. So I just, when I walk up to the wood pile, just grab them out of the ground.
Here in New England, we're good at rocks. Rocks is a big thing.
Well, that's why we have hard water.
And someone was down like Florida, like, oh, they pay like big money for rocks down here. And I'm like,
I'm still waiting for Andrea and Nikki to sell one of those rocks that we dug up out of my garden last year. When I say rock, I mean boulder.
yeah,
Pretty big.
Big as his desk.
Yeah.
I couldn't lift it with the excavator. And I said I wouldn't load it for them, so if they sold it, the person would have to bring in their own equipment. And they were like, we can sell it. I said, okay, you can't, if they sell it, which, someone will give me $1 for the rock, they have to take the rock. And they're like, okay, yeah, it hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened. They've had that challenge for what, 10 months now, 9 months?
Been a pretty long time. So we had school board meeting last night. Congratulations, you're the new chair.
Thank you, I guess.
You're a little like, I don't know.
Well, Jenna has such grace and poise, and she's done such a great job representing everybody, the town. I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that she really didn't want it, which
She didn't.
when we were walking out, she was like, what the hell? I was like,
I
I
told
wanted
you guys I didn't want to do it again, and you almost tried to. And I was laughing.
Yeah, she thought we were like in cahoots. I was like,
Right. We all talked. We're going to force you to do it.
No, it was my whole point was, Jenna, like you need to turn. Like, granted, she nominated me, but like it's only fair to nominate her and her turn it down. Which I guess by her nominating me, that was her way of doing it. But I had spoke to her and I was like, Jenna, what? Like, on the way out, I'm like, no, like. She's like, I saw it. And I was like, all right. I was like, that's why I didn't, I wasn't going to, number one, vote for myself.
You two are over there doing that thing. Me and Bert were sitting here like, son of a bitch. In the end, we're going to end up with this stuff, aren't we?
But, Jenna, I can't say enough good things about her. Like,
Yeah.
we disagreed with her when we were on the citizen side and, during the whole COVID policy fiasco. I look at it as a fiasco.
Yeah.
Especially now, in hindsight, everybody else should be too. They should be like, wow, Stephen, where did you get that article again that said all these bad things? NIH.
Yeah. We have a little NIH conversation late in the show. But
Do we? Nice.
Yeah, just a little something. But we have a lot of local stuff we can talk about first. I feel very unorganized today. Just, I don't know. I have stuff to talk about. Like, there's just so much going on, and my head's kind of scattered because, and then like, some people it's like, all right, I'm going to tell you this, so don't tell anybody. And now I have a hard time remembering what someone told me not to tell someone.
You have to like. Well, see, that's
I start writing it down.
Well, then when you write it down and then you get rated, they're gonna be like, look at all this insider information that Tim has on everybody in town from all the whistleblowers.
Yeah, I was just like, so I have a conversation. I'm like, what was the part I wasn't supposed to say?
That's the problem with writing it down. Like, you can't really write it down.
Well, no, yeah, let me pull my notes out, and then you lose an, yeah, I don't know. But, so anyways, last night's meeting, Jeff Kessler came to speak in public comment, which I applaud and I openly welcome. I didn't care if 20 people showed up like at selectmen's meeting and all spoke and were concerned or like whatever. I was elected for this position. Thank you very much. Forgot to thank everyone for that last night. Thank you, and thank you for passing the budget. But I'll sit there and take it. I don't. Okay, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. So
no, I openly encourage that kind of stuff because if you know, granted, you have only been on the board for what, 8 months, 6 months, whatever it is.
6, I think.
Not, yeah,
something like that.
I've been on it for a year now,
Yeah.
and so we're still learning a lot. And just like I think was it Mr. Burrows at the last town meeting called, you know, he's like, Tim, you know, it's not the same once you get over here on this side that you
Right.
Once you see, which is absolutely correct and true, because
Yes.
you know.
It's there's
and we were just as vocal against the school, not against, but like certain policies that the school board had.
Oh, yeah.
Like we were just as vocal before we were elected.
I think we hammered them worse.
Yeah, I don't even really talk at the town's meetings because.
And that was personal for me when we were doing the mask thing. Like that was personal to me, very personal. None of this is personal.
Yeah, you're like when we talked about doing any of this stuff, it was we got to make sure we're trying to do right by the people. It's not like, and I've given Hunter credit, you've given Hunter credit. Like the guy can write grants, he can procure money for the town and do everything else. Just with this one thing, something's not sitting right.
Right. So,
and it's not because of anything to do with, you know, K.A. Stevens. I never even knew them until the meeting where this all kind of got brought up at the first issue that they had with him, which was 6 months ago or whatever it was.
Yeah, September 19th meeting.
But you know, he brought up some good points.
Sure.
In the sense of, you know, like, yeah, we do need to check it. Thank you for bringing this to our attention and holding us to the fire, because now you're right. We can't sit back and relax. Like it's like every dollar counts. And if we have 20 or 30 people showing up and scrutinizing on top of us trying to scrutinize the budget, that's only more eyes, and then that helps to explain either what we're doing well and where we need to make some improvements, because pretty soon the well is going to run dry.
Yeah, I think it's sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree. And so every dollar that the town spends is important, and every dollar that we spend is important. And, you know, as an individual, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board or anything else. I'm just saying as an individual that's elected, it's my charge to try to do what's right by the citizens and make sure we're doing everything right. And so I have no issue with that.
No, and so let me recap the conversation. So the first thing I've said was apparently our town manager lies and stuff all the time. And I'm like, well, is that a statement, or because I think I've proved that, but okay. And then it was kind of like, that's not an attack, because he wasn't like, he didn't raise his voice.
He was just.
So like, watch it. Don't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like my conversation at the board that was more heated. His wasn't like that at all. But just like he talked about our show and whatever, and I, like I said after, and I think I said during my board communication, and I'm going to say right now, is we are private citizens in the United States of America. We are protected under the First Amendment, and we are not representatives of the board, the school board, when we are doing the show. Now, we may talk as having knowledge of things because of that position, but this is the Tim and Steve show. Has nothing to do with the school. Has nothing to do with anybody. No, nothing. Not a damn thing to do with anyone. And
yeah, I think you decided to do this because we were angry about the just everything that happened with the COVID policies, and right. So it was like,
Yeah, and then just all the
it was not that we were angry, right? But like we had talked about, like how can we generate support, whatever, and then as you were going and talking with different people throughout the town, what you realized is that there's not a lot of avenues to have positive things put on TV, or to show positive things. So you had actually went and said, "Hey, let's work together and try to put positive things out there."
Yeah, I actually went to
That's
that.
what
That
it
was my
is.
meeting with Hunters way back then. I had I figured I'd get a half hour's time. 4 hours later, I finally left, and I was like, "Holy crap!" So
He gives his time to anybody, just like we mentioned with the older gentleman out there.
Yeah,
towards your house, he went out and twice to his house. So like,
yeah, he'll talk so much you're like, "Holy crap! I need to leave a while ago." So no one can ever say that.
yeah, that's
He won't talk to me because that's never going to be the case. But I originally just went to him and said, "Hey, what can we do to?"
And you went to Dr. Minahan, so
Yes. So what can we do to have positive, basically hire me as your PR person or whatever, and I'll do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of how it all started with this, and then I was like, hey, let's just do this podcast or whatever, and then from there it was like, all right, well, there's so much stuff going on out there that we don't like that I want to make people aware of, because even when I posted the letter, so many people are like, what does this got to do with it? What? I don't understand. And I'm like, do you not follow anything? And the reality is, well, no, you don't, because people are busy and not paying attention. This is the whole point. You need to pay attention to what's happening in your town, especially because there's stuff happening that's not above board as far as I'm concerned. Here's the thing. If you don't want me to go after the town manager, don't lie. It's real freaking simple.
yeah. So my take on that, and this is my take. We're getting the half truth, which is technically a lie because it's not the full truth.
Right. The town made the decision, not the state. Right. Just own it. You did hire United Construction to fix the water line with your guys down by that dam. Okay, I don't care. But don't lie to me and say, no, we just rented the excavator. And then, oh, well, we come with an operator, and then, oh, yeah, there might have been a couple dump trucks. Okay, you hired them.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's an emergency situation.
Nobody cares. But don't lie about it. But this is what pisses me off. Because when you lie to me...
No, it's not even a lie, right? So, the lie was the...
Well, the lie was no, the story developed.
The misremembering was, I'm not sure. And then by the end of the conversation, he knew everything. And he knew that Doug Ring was out there taking pictures. So, he knew the whole story. And part of it might have been here's the thing. If you don't want to talk about it or whatever, then you say, look, there's a lot more to it. We try to rotate. In this case, we went with them because they had the qualified experts and they could get there in 10 minutes, and this was a quick job. Next. Right? And that would have ended it. That would have ended it. We've been yeah, that's what we have going on. We have some water line breakages. This is what we're doing to fix it.
Yeah.
Just be direct with it.
And no one in town's going to be like, no, you should have sent it out to bid. And we obviously know that, it's just
an emergency situation. Now the one thing you might get, which is a valid question that even should be asking the school board, is when you have those emergency situations, do you try to rotate them?
Yeah, you should have a list of people.
Right. And did we talk about that on the show the other day? Or
I think a little bit. Because we talked about patents and stones. Yeah. And so there should be a list. They should have a list for emergency stuff.
If you have more than one business is qualified to do
because
paving or road repair,
right,
and they're all local businesses, you want to support local businesses more than you do somebody from Connecticut or Mass or
exactly
Vermont even. You know what I'm saying? Yes, try to start here, New Hampshire, Vermont, work your way out. But if you have 3 companies in town or 5 or 12,
yes,
be fair about it. And we owe that, and I say we, but the school should do that too.
Yeah.
And if they're not, then we'll correct that.
Right.
In that capacity, and I think that's a fair thing to say because it's just fairness.
Yeah, so we'll just make sure. He mentioned the snow plowing thing. And Donna says, well, it's a 2-year contract, so we haven't done it in a while, I believe. So, okay, I have no problem with that. We'll look into it. And
Right,
we
yeah,
will
I appreciate that.
And we'll make sure that
because
things
if there is anything
Right.
wrong, we're going to fix it and we'll own it and hold people to account if there is anyone here still to hold to account for that.
right,
If there's something wrong with that contract that's 2 years old.
right. And then going forward, make sure it's done right. Like that's all anyone wants. Just make sure it's done right. But clearly, you went on a whole thing with this Stevens thing. Look at all the things that happened. You know, the bridge got like the bridge thing's worse than the bridge thing is honestly the worst out of everything that's happened because
Well, yeah, but it's just that's
to post a bridge was going to screw them and make them go the other way and have to go all the way through Claremont. Like, see, if that happened to me, it would not have been a long process of, like, it would have been a big issue day 1 or 2 or something. Josh just tried to, like, go through the process, right, and figure out, whatever.
that's what it appears, right?
I wouldn't have done that.
Like
Personally, I
the
would
side
have
we see,
friggin' gone, it wouldn't have happened that way. But can you imagine, if you're a resident in this town, can you imagine that happening to you?
No, like you.
Or
wouldn't-
if you're a resident in another town, then you listen to our show, can you imagine suddenly this happens to you? Like a public entity goes after you, whether it's for reason or not reason. There is never a reason to do something like this. So that inconvenience your life, costs you money, like for no reason, because that person, like, to me, it's criminal. Like, this isn't like the 50s anymore when some shady shit happened or some little cowpoke town out in the west that, tumbleweeds going through. We all watch these
like old westerns where like the money man's in charge and the sheriff works for him.
Right. So honestly, like that's probably the worst part. And like we said the other day, like, okay, the Stevens thing, you could have rejected the bid before you even opened it.
Right.
And none of this would have happened.
None of it.
No fraudulent letter. None of it.
Yeah, that's a good after-action review of the situation, which is next time, abide by 15.1 and don't even open the bid.
Yeah, your own damn rules you put in there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think, I'm trying to think what else he said. Oh, and then he just said, next time someone complains about their taxes, they're going to send them to school because, once again, we are 2/3 of the budget. And last night was a perfect example, which timing-wise, I guess, worked out well. So we talked about lead last night. And so obviously we have to do lead tests every so often. Like the town has to do a water test every, it might even be a week. I don't even know. But it's very often because they're providing water to the community and make sure it's safe to drink because something could happen and, and it happens all the time. You'll see it. Lebanon has a boil order because of something until they can get their water back under control if it's a break or whatever. So the state changed the policy or the law or whatever. So currently in the town, in the city, their water, you can have up to 15 parts per billion of lead in the water. Well, the state, in all their wisdom down there, said schools and child daycare places can only have 5 parts per billion now. So if you're a daycare and you have your own well, okay, that's an easy thing. Makes sense. But if you have town water, and if the town's allowed 15 parts per billion, and your water's coming to you and say it's got 8, the town could never, or the school could never get 5 without having to filter everything. And then the same kid that is drinking the water at the school that only has the 5 or under now goes home and drinks the 8. So it doesn't make any sense. It's a stupid law. But they say, Newport School or any school in the state, you will fix it. Oh, is there funding? And supposedly there's like a 50% match grant on it. But so this is the problem, and this happens all the time, and this is why your taxes are so high, because the state or the federal government forces the school to do something stupid like this, and we pay for it.
Well, so
if you want it 5, then make it 5 for the whole state.
Right.
That makes sense, because if your water's coming in from a supply at a higher number than you're allowed, now you have to fill, and then they're going to drink it at other places that number. Like, And so I had said last night, you need to ask the town, the water department, like the last test they did, what was the lead level? Because if it's above 5, and it may be 0, if it's above 5, then you're going to have to filter the water coming in the building. That would be step 1.
Right. So up until this new law passed, we were at 5.86 on most of these that we've had to shut down or that the schools had to shut down. So now we're forced to spend money to correct this to meet a standard that didn't exist. And up until now, we were well exceeding the standard. So it's not like we have horrible plumbing and your kids have been getting lead in their water, which they have, but at 5 parts per billion, or 5.8
parts per billion.
Parts per billion, which up until the new law for schools and daycares was totally fine.
Yeah, the bigger issue is lead paint.
And so then, that's why I responded to Jeff, and I was like, I would appreciate that, because we can't, like in this case, we're going to have to spend money to either buy filters or, we got to diagnose the problem. Like you said, there's a 50% match grant, but if we have 30, angry or whatever citizens that are like, why are you imposing this? Because what if the 6 parts per billion is coming in right outside the school, or it's coming from because it passes public consumption, which is, I think, a point that Mr. Spalding had made.
Right.
That, or maybe it was you, but it doesn't make any sense. So now we're on the hook for this money, and my point to Mr. Kessler was, yes, I agree with you. Like, we need people coming in here scrutinizing our budget, because most of the things that we spend money on, most, not all, at this point anyway, are like mandated things. And so if you don't want us to have to do that, the way that you do that is by saying, just like we were saying, if it's the EPA mandates something, why are we doing it? Right? That's the citizens saying that at the select board.
Right.
If they're saying that to us to the school board, and then we can respond back as a board if the town is pretty unanimous in it and say, hey, look, we can't meet your requirements. So what are you going to do? You're going to shut down all of our schools?
Right.
Which they probably would, but then the town's going to get mad. Oh, no, I know, but they would threaten it, just like they're going to threaten with $25,000 fines per day. We can't afford that, so
they would never. It's all fear. It's all fear tactics. You see, take Croydon for example. Okay, I say it. This is the prime example. Croydon says you can't send those kids to the Montessori school and pay for it because public funds aren't allowed to go to any place but public schools. Croydon basically says, we don't care, we're going to do it anyways. State sues Croydon. Croydon wins, goes to Supreme Court. Croydon wins. Now it's school choice is a nationwide thing because of that whole Croydon decision. Like the whole Croydon decision, little ass Croydon. And it seems like every time the state tries to take Croydon on, they lose. So that makes me question the authority that they perceivably think they have. I'm thinking they probably don't have the authority. They just use fear tactics, just like the EPA. Oh, we're going to come in here and fine you and blah, blah, blah. We could.
Where are you going to get the money from?
What are you going to do? Seriously.
You can't put any more systems in. Okay. Well.
Okay. EPA, so are you going to relocate my whole town? No. EPA, what'd you do in Flint, Michigan? Not a damn thing. Would you fine them? They couldn't afford to fix the water anyways. Did you fine them?
They had the president go and drink a fake glass of water.
Yeah. So, we just keep making decisions off of fear, too. And I know some people out there would be like, oh, my goodness, these guys are dumb. Like, you know what they could do to you. Yeah. Okay.
No, yeah. I mean, they can sue us and everything else, but that doesn't make it right. Like, it takes people standing up and saying, no, this is what the state constitution says. This is what the federal constitution says. I'm out. Like, I'm not playing your games anymore. But it takes, it can't just be me, trying to do it by myself, because I'll lose every time. They'll squash me like a bug and silence me by whatever. But
so let's send our point home right here. Really easy, something Mr. Spalding said last night, okay? So up to 250,000 gallons of vinyl chloride were released into the atmosphere in Palestine, Ohio, a month ago or 6 weeks ago, whatever it was, okay? He said in one of his previous jobs, he was out in Michigan, and if 1 quart of vinyl chloride was to get dumped or whatever on the floor there, it would evacuate the whole entire factory. 1 quart, just 4 quarts to a gallon That's 1 million quarts of vinyl chloride that they burnt and sent into the atmosphere. And
Yeah, because they didn't burn it like you see in the movies where
Yeah.
they blow up
right,
a weapon to make the weapon not blow up as big as it could.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like to try to reduce the effects. They just lit it on fire. Like I saw a report on this a month or two ago where like it wasn't done properly. It was an environmental guy who said that he worked with this, and he said no, they didn't.
No.
They didn't do it. They just lit it on fire, basically. Like
Right.
it wasn't a controlled burn. It was they watched it burn, so it was controlled in that sense. But when he thinks of a controlled burn, it means they evaporate all that stuff so that it doesn't
right,
fall back down and get back into
right. Because everything has boiling points, flash points,
Yeah, there you go.
whatever.
All that good stuff you learn in school.
So maybe you should remember this next time the EPA threatens you. We're going to fine you, Newport, if you don't fix the, you have too many nitrates and
Which
phosphates.
the board's doing the right thing by saying, hey, look, if we don't pass this, they're going to fine us. But then it's us as citizens that say, who cares? Like,
Yes, the board is doing their job. The
Right.
board is saying we have to do this because the state's and
Right. Like, I don't fault them for that.
No.
But that's where I'm saying the citizens come in and say, hey, I
Right.
appreciate you letting us know this, but we don't really care. Like, we're at a breaking point.
right.
My electric bill is $700 during the winter when nothing is running.
And if these people in the EPA, whatever, want to fix so bad, we don't have a problem fixing it. Send us the money.
Yeah.
Send us the money if you're concerned so much about the environment.
A 6,500 plus town.
No, I saw the other day that it was like 7,400 or something.
Oh, wow.
Like that. I wish I'd saved that. There was something I saw with the new census or something like that. It was higher than I originally thought. So actually, we should look into that so we can try to verify that. But yeah, and then only 40% roughly of the town's residents use it, and they're the ones that pay for the 10 million of it. So, like, I don't know. So yeah, the select board is not doing anything wrong as far as that.
Yeah. No like this. That's everything that they're saying on that is I would assume is exact and true. And yes,
Right.
you don't want $25,000 fines. And then they did say that they're working, like with Hunter, and they know that we have this on things, so they're not fining us now. But
And this has been going on for a while. This is not new. This has been going on for, I think, like 5 years. Or
and this is
something.
not to say I don't think we need a new water treatment plant and everything else.
But do we need a $28 million one? That's the question.
It's just so expensive.
See, that's where I just have doubts because.
And then the other thing, right? So along with these same things, I don't want to get sidetracked, but I didn't say it. I don't think I worded it properly. No, I didn't say it. I thought about it after I was done talking, but so we have education that's not funded fully by the state, and so again, I agree with Mr. Kessler. Like, we tax the town a lot. Like, it's a lot on the school side, but that's because the state's not doing their part and paying more than $4,000 a student or whatever it is. When it's costing us like $20,000 or
no school in the state you could go to for that amount of money. And it was actually when I was sitting in the meeting, Virginia was like 2 spots over, and I said, "Oh yeah, just like constitutionally, the state's supposed to fund education." And she's like, "They technically do by like the burden of the law." And I'm like, "Well, that's debatable, and we'll see what the lawsuit says." But you know how we could fix all this really easily, because there's a one word missing out of that quote in that Constitution. If that one word was in there, this would never be an issue. It should said when they have to fund education, it should say fully fund education. If you said put the word fully in there, this wouldn't be an issue. So what's easier? I'm curious, and I don't know, and I wish I did because I should know more, but is it easier to change the New Hampshire Constitution and amend and put that word fully in there? Or is it easier just to keep suing and hoping the Supreme Court will do their job and tell the state, like, hey, this 4,600 is not sufficiently funding the school? I don't know. But that one word, if you wrote fully.
so. But he's not going to get any argument from me that we have a lot of taxes on the school side. Like, yes, we do, unfortunately.
Yeah, we pay them. Like, it's not like we don't live in town, and like, we do. We pay them, and we bitch about the taxes all the time as well. But we didn't do an assessment, and I know you had to do the assessment. I get it. And it come at the worst possible time ever because everything was high. Okay, it's not the selectman's fault.
Yeah.
But listen, you're an elected official. This is part of the deal. If you don't want to take the heat for things or you don't want to listen to this or whatever, don't be an elected official.
Right. You got to sit there and take it because the people who show up to the meetings, that's the most important thing for them. So if they take the time to come in and sit there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours.
6 hours.
Yeah, 6 hours. Like, it's important to them. They're not there, like, it's important. They can't afford $1,000 increase on average per year for water. Like, that's...
Well, for sewer.
Or sewer. I mean, that's scary for some people because they already know how much everything's been going up.
I talked to someone the other day, and I was like, here's the thing. That was based off of 4,000 gallons. You think I would know this because of my, last profession, but I have zero clue. But who knows? 4,000 gallons may be a low number, and they just gave you a low number. It could be the average people in town use 7,000 gallons. That's going to be considerably more. I don't know. Like, I was talking to Jeff North, and he's like, he uses like 4 million gallons or something because of the car wash and the laundromat. And I don't know if that was yearly or what. I'm assuming it's probably yearly. But so his bill potentially will double. And it's like, okay, well, then you're probably going to have to charge double for car washes and laundry, obviously, because you don't do this for
everything else gets
for
a
free.
price increase. Our
Right.
dollar is worth less because of inflation.
Right. So it's a double whammy.
And it's not and I think a couple of select board actually said it. Like, yeah, we don't want to pay it either. But, like, you can't get angry at these guys.
No.
For not wanting their bill to go up $1,000 when guys like me could vote for it.
Right. And I can guarantee.
And it doesn't even affect me one way or the other at this point in time.
I can guarantee you, like was said at the meeting, that Hunter has had many conversations with the people from the state of the federal government about the whole thing. And I'm sure many, many times he said, well, our residents cannot afford this. And I'm sure it's got heated. I'm sure he's done everything he could next to telling them to F off and hanging up on them. I'm sure he has. Like I said, I will give Hunter credit due where it's due. Because this, like I said, this isn't personal. But I'm not going to back off on all the lies and stuff when no one will just come clean and be like, hey, like, whatever. Or this is what we've done, or this is what we've changed. And like I told Jim Burrows, I'm like, hang on, because I'm going to cause a lot of waves for a bit. But in the end, what I see is everything's going to get easier and everything's going to get better because now it's all above board. And unfortunately, your board doesn't just want to vote and do things above board without being pressured into it.
Yeah, like take 2 weeks to think about something. Like if you're getting something in it, like I get it, every once in a while you get an emergency decision or something comes up, right? So you don't have time to process it and research it. But
you don't have to make a decision on striping Main Street because the state says, oh, we'll pay for it, and you have to make a decision in 5 minutes and not think about the backlash of, oh, wait.
Or how's that the second order effect of the businesses on Main Street?
Oh, but it's going to be safer. It's going to be safer. You're going to have 23 less spots, 3 less handicap spots. It's going to be safer.
And I'll be fair here. Donna was at that board meeting, and she was like, granted, she's not a town representative, but from the school board, or not school board, from her perspective, it would be safer for kids because, so she gave her input. So, like, just the truth in lending there, even though it has no influence other than the fact that she's the interim superintendent.
The problem is, oftentimes when someone hears safety, that just goes to their head and they just think about that and they don't think about anything else. Because at the end of the day, safety is number one, right? Well, the safest thing you could do is just stay in your house and you never get in a car accident, you never get in an airplane or whatever. Like, and I think that's what a lot of people said. Like, we haven't had any accidents or anything down there in a long, long, long time. Knock on wood. And trust me, we've all driven through there. We see the same thing everyone sees. Sometimes someone just comes. First of all, people don't use the sidewalk, so I don't even know why you're putting a freaking
crosswalk.
Crosswalk. I don't know why you're putting crosswalks. I mean, I know you have to, but like nobody uses them. If my car's here and the crosswalk's down there, guess what? I'm walking to my car.
I use the crosswalk whenever it's busy. Like if I can see 20 cars coming, I'll walk
But
the
if
extra
you're in the
20 or 30 feet.
Right, but
now,
if-
but if I'm in the middle and
Right.
going to the radio station, I probably won't. I'll just wait till there's an opening.
Right, but if you're parked in the middle and it's busy, you could walk straight across your vehicle, or you could go to the crosswalk, then walk down in traffic to get to your vehicle. You're not going to do that. You're just going to walk over. So my suggestion was, okay, you want to make it safer? Then make the speed limit 20 miles per hour from the bank to the lights. Now, here's the catch. Now Alex and his guys have to patrol it more, enforce it, everything else. Which is going to be hard, right? But like I know if I drive through Grantham, if you speed and get pulled over, they will give you a ticket because that's Grantham. Now I'd be like, well, they're kind of dicks there because but they have no tolerance for it. So I know when I drive through Grantham, oh, let's slow down. Guess what?
Well, that's how I am
what
even
we're trying to do.
going down over the Sugar River. It's like when it changes to 35, there's going to be a Stady, and even sometimes there's a Newport cop.
Through Kellyville, yeah.
Yeah, through Kellyville.
Which most people just zoom through. Now,
I got
granted,
passed the other day on the bridge, and I was like, please be there.
On the bridge?
Please
Yeah, that's
be
happened
there.
before, too.
I was like, please be there. And then, of course,
they're
they weren't
never there when you want them. Which
He'll be there today
Yeah.
when I drive across and pull me over for going 38. I mean,
Yeah.
he wouldn't.
No.
But,
But even then, if you're driving through there like 45, most of the time a cop doesn't pull you over because they already figure. I think it's if the speed limit's 55, they figure 65. Like it's a formula they figure that people because obviously everyone
allegedly.
yeah goes a little faster. So, and a lot of times I've driven through.
I think Chief Wilmot, though, would disagree with you because didn't we have that conversation with him? He was like, usually, but I think he said there's like a number and they should already know before they get out of the car
No,
if
no,
they're
no,
gonna
no.
give you a ticket or not.
No, I'm not talking about tickets. I'm just talking about getting pulled over. Typically, if the speed limit's 55, they know a lot of people are going to be going 65. So typically they'll have a number in their head. Okay,
Well, 65, I think you'd get pulled over. Like, I think it's like 7 miles per hour. You're probably pretty good.
There's-
at that rate.
whatever. But
I try not to speed. No.
right. But what I'm saying
But
is,
I'm not going to hinder traffic, so I'll set the cruise control on
right,
68 if I need to because I don't want to.
right,
Because then I'm a danger to everybody else if everybody's going.
right. But here's the thing: just
68.
in my mind, then just lower the speed limit through town.
Yeah, they talked about that, right? Though it's not just as easy as like Alex or the
No,
police department. They have to go through the state, and
Yeah.
it's a town. It's a state road too, right?
Yeah, I know, which I find interesting because, yeah, but this is our town, and this is like I just feel like, but I don't think the state's going to say no. I think you're going to go to the state and say,
I don't
hey,
think it's that easy though, because they had that conversation about changing speed limits. That it's not as easy as they had that conversation the other night. I agree with you. That would be the so. But if we're saying that, right? Now it's just me and you on here saying it. But like if I don't know what you would consider a quorum at a town meeting, but if like 40 people show up and that's all you got, then that's what you get. Just like 300 voted out of 7,400. That's not well. How are they figured out? It was like 9% of the town.
3,500 registered voters or something like that. But
9% came out and voted. So, but if there's 30 parents that show up and they're all rabble rousing about something, we're going to look into it and then after we look into it, right? Because like I said, you don't have to make a decision all the time that meeting. You can delay things and do some research, like Mr. North did. Went out, took pictures, and saw just to say, hey, look, you don't have to do this. Like here's 10 examples he gave of like parking spots that don't meet the state standard on roads that you would think that they would have to. So, he found comparable situations.
Right.
That's what you kind of expect of your elected leaders, not to just be like, oh, it's going to save us. Now, granted, it's easy when you get in there, like, oh, it'll save us $5,000-$6,000 because you're trying to be a good steward, but then you're not thinking second and third order effects. And that's why sometimes it's good to take a step back and say, do we need to make a decision on this week, or can we look into it?
you'll lose more than $5,000 in revenue when Main Street goes, under.
Yeah, but I don't. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that I don't think anything of that was malicious or what I mean. That was more of a.
No, it wasn't malicious.
Yeah, it was just a cost saving. Yep, sounds good. But it'll be safe, like you said. It'll be safer. You throw safe out there, and everybody's like, "Well, I got to do it if it's for safety." Like I believe in individualism.
And that
You're
was
on your own, kiddo.
I was joking with Alex that night because I was like, what we told you how to be here because me and Bert were going to be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he laughed. He's like, no, he's like, I really wanted to talk about the safety and stuff with, you know, down Main Street, whatever, with the striping and the parking lot and whatever. And, because I didn't really get a chance. And, you know, and I mentioned the 20 thing. And he's like, yeah, like, that's not a bad idea. Just, you're right. It'd be hard to, you know, patrol. It's like, it's not easy. It's not as easy as that. And I'm not, when I say things, it's not to make it seem easy, but it's another idea. Like, you're supposed to throw ideas out and work. Okay, what's the best way to handle all this?
Yeah.
Because this is really going to hurt businesses, and we can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to work and figure it out. And
if I agree with everything that you say, like, there's no, like, we're not going to change path and maybe find something better, something cheaper, something more efficient. You know what I mean? So you have to have an open discussion. That's why, you know, businesses back in the day brainstorm. You throw out ideas, you don't chastise them at first, and then you start, then after you go through them, you start lining them out when you're like, all right, that's not feasible. What, you know what I mean? And then you look, and then you narrow it down, and you find the best course of action. Right. You always got to have at least 3 courses of action.
Exactly.
Every plan goes to garbage as soon as you start executing it. As soon as you're done even thinking about that plan, it's already failing. That's why you got to have second and third order.
Yeah. So, and lastly, with one of the things Jeff said last night, which was a total call out for me, which is fine, was I said in one of the shows last week, I think it was last week, probably Tuesday show, that if those are very important words, if I find out any of the select board members or the town manager was financially involved with the mill building, I would make sure they're in jail, because that's a crime, giving tax breaks and not disclosing. Like, there's things you have to do, right? I highly doubt that's the case, but I still said it, okay? Now, if you want to use that and you want to say that, you really should listen, just like, you know, we've been told, like, hey, you got to check this because that wasn't, okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. We made a correction. Well, I said if, okay? So anyways, Jeff mentions, oh, we are in bed with someone. We are getting a kickback out of all this. We're in bed with Chris Sununu, and we get $10,000 per unit that goes in there, so that's $700,000. So, okay, you get $700,000. I'm assuming that's obviously just a one-time, here's $700,000. You gave them $900,000 in tax break, so there's still $200,000 that of a break that you're legit giving them. But on year one of their $300,000 tax break, if they have a low number of 10 kids, that's $200,000 they just added to the school. So that's $200,000 the first year, and the $200,000 tax break. There's $400,000, and then $200,000 and $200,000. Now, if there's 20 kids, that's $400,000.
And this is basic math, right? This is based on what we've understood. We might have missed a meeting or something, whatever, but that was news to me when he said the $10,000 per unit. But, like, what's that going to go towards? We're going to put that towards the...
That's not going to the school. It's going to go to the town.
No. But are they going to put that towards the sewer treatment plant? Save the taxpayers $700,000 if they fill them all up?
I doubt it.
But, you know, those are the kinds of conversations that can help. Is like, if we're going to get,
be above board. When we straight out call you out on this show, we ask you in a meeting, and I wanted an answer from every single board member why you'd vote on that. And first of all, none of you have answered it, and then I didn't bring it back up in public forum because there was so much happening. But and then you keep in your pocket, oh, well, Sununu is going to give us $10,000 per unit. Well, are we getting $10,000 per unit for Spring Street? Because that's a housing project that came to town. And why would you keep that secret? So this is a whole thing. Be above board. You're holding back information. Now, maybe it's not lying because you're holding information back, but you're not telling everything. And so then people are just going to assume, oh, you gave them $900,000 tax break. That comes out of our pocket.
Right. So you let us sit there and say that when at any point in time they could say, hey, it's not that way. We actually get $10,000, and we're going to put that $10,000 towards this.
Why wouldn't you defend your decision? Like, I don't even get it.
Which is what, like Mr. Spalding pointed out, like that's what Jeff wanted. He came to the school board and was like, you guys need to be more open, have more conversation, right? And so we've adapted I think, like,
Yeah. Especially now.
yeah, like I think now it's like, because nobody's showing up either, so it makes it a lot easier. Somebody raises their hand, it's like, well,
Yeah,
this isn't going to take 5 hours because there's 2 people here.
There's just one person or 2 people.
And then, the chairperson can say, you've been talking for 10 minutes, got to call it, or 5.
Right.
Or, hey, you've been talking for 5, technically your time's up. However, I'll let you reach a conclusion to what it is that you're saying. That's the way that, because I like, just like Mr. Spaulding said, like now granted, they talked an awful lot but it's important, right? So,
I know Jeff
you have to like kind of
reined it in.
balance it, but at the end of the day, like I was saying earlier, this is the most important thing. If they're showing up, whatever it is, if it's for the striping, if it's for the sewer treatment, if it's for, full circle tax break, you know what I mean? Like she stayed there because that was most important, even though she probably lost. She could have, granted she's not getting paid at 7:00 at night, but that's a long time, or 6:30. But anyway, I'm kind of digressing, but it's important to have the conversations and then to defend it,
right.
and understand that it's personal for the older gentleman who's like, I can't afford that. Like, what the hell? It's not fair because Steve's going to vote and he doesn't even use this and he's going to pass it and it's not going to affect him other than what he pays $50 more or $100 more on his dump.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
I'm not saying charge us $1,200 to dump our. That's the next thing that comes out.
It wouldn't. Yeah, it's not.
No, but I'm joking, by the way. But it's important for anyone. Like last night, for Mr. Kessler to show up, it was important for him to say what he wanted to say.
Right, and we listened, and I responded. Obviously, you responded.
And that's what we've talked about for a long time, even before we got on the board. Now,
right.
As individual board members, we can affect change and say,
right.
Why don't y'all ever talk to us? And sometimes you get the feeling they don't want an answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, but there are other times where
they want an answer.
They want an answer, and if a board member can't answer it, then someone hopefully on the admin side can.
It's our job to answer to the public. Well, I don't care if it's the school board, the town.
And if we haven't answered something, hold us and say, hey, I asked you this, and I still haven't heard anything.
Yeah. No, I 100%.
And I will say, I am sorry I did not get back to you. I will own it, and then I will get you the answer.
Yeah.
And people understand that people make mistakes. It's kind of like at a certain point in time, and this is my own suspicion, is that there's something that somebody in town doesn't like about K.A. Stevens with whatever with the bridge project, with everything else. There's some bad blood somewhere throughout there. Also, they had an issue with some jobs or whatever, and whether or not they're valid or not. That might be why they're not bringing it up, is because are they valid complaints or are they not, right? So that's what I think is like, because
listen,
a lot of this could end if they said, we don't like X, Y, and Z about K.A. Stevens. That's why we shouldn't have opened their bid under 15.1. We had the opportunity. We made a mistake by opening it, but we don't think that they're qualified for this job for these 3 reasons. And they don't necessarily have to tell the public that, but they could have done it on the front side. So my point is like.
But in a way, they do need to tell the public that, though. This is a public bid. You need to explain why you rejected it. This is the thing. This is government. There's no secrets to government. Me and you don't have some magic power that we get to know all these things that the people don't. Now, there are things we know that we can't say that are non-public.
Personnel and negotiations.
There are things. There are things. Trust me. And those things
it's
sometimes.
The same on the town, too.
Yes. But if it comes to a bid, like we have the CTE thing coming up. And if there's bids and stuff, there could be questions. And guess what? If we were to disqualify someone, you're publicly going to say why you're disqualifying them. You're not going to be like, well, I don't want to hurt their reputation. No, you're going to, because it's your job. Because when you're sued, you're going to explain it to a judge. Because the judge isn't going to say, well, I don't want to hurt reputation. The judge is going to say, answer the question, or I'm going to hold you in contempt of court. Because this isn't a private business. Private business practices is completely different than public. It's public. You have to, all these people have to do, which pisses me off, is say, any one of the members of that board could say it, or Hunter could say it. We didn't choose them because of this, and this is how I feel about it, whatever. And it could be more of a done deal. No, instead you sit there, you don't defend yourself whatsoever, thinking it will just go away, but then you continue to do shit to screw with them instead of being like, whoa, you know what?
That's what it has the appearance of.
Let's not mess with this anymore. Let's just straight up do this. Because now the first person getting a waiver is them, because I don't want to make people think that we're still messing with them and that this is still going on. So I'm going to make damn sure my employees get that waiver to them first, and then the other ones get theirs incorrectly. But that's not what's happening, because apparently it's fun. It must be fun to screw with someone's life. And I'm not saying that as the board. I'm saying that as the employees of the town manager and DPW.
Well, that's what it has the appearance of. And I don't know.
And if you
can't see that,
and if they did a good job when they said they made changes and they corrected all the situation behind closed doors and that person still had a job, if they actually did a good job when they did that, this wouldn't happen anymore, and he still wouldn't have emails that are still like the same thing where it's like, this dude's just trying to screw with us. You know, when you read the email in public and then you still try to say, well, that's not true. Like, wait, this is the email. Just like when you say the state didn't make the state made the decision on the bridge, it had nothing to do with the town, and I have a letter that says that's a lie, and then you say, I think Mr. Wilkie was upset that he was thrown under the bus, and the way Hunter was trying to make it seem was like that the Stevenses threw him under the bus. No, jackass, you threw him under the bus by saying that he made the decision, he as in the state made the decision, and you still did it that night. I have a little clip that's obviously been all over Facebook. I'm sure it's upset Mr. Kessler. But you know what? Facts are facts. And you lied. Not Mr. Kessler. Mr. Reesberg lied.
Yeah.
And guess what? I'm not going to stop waking this town up to what the hell is happening in this town. If you don't want to do this stuff, then maybe stand up in a meeting and be like, you know, I made some mistakes. And all this is going to be above board from now on. And I apologize to the Stevenses for all this. And I apologize to the residents of the town. You know,
I bet it would go away. We'd all be like, all right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I still may have some real strong feelings towards you, but you know what? At least you manned up and actually did what you should have done. Just like the chair of the school board and the superintendent stepping up and saying, hey, mistakes were made. Please don't punish us for it or whatever. Like, they totally fell on it like it was their fault when
all of us were involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's on both sides.
And it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. How many times, Steve, do we make corrections if we need to make corrections? This is what you do.
Yeah.
Because you don't have any credibility if you say stuff and then someone proves you wrong and you still try to run with a story as like, oh, no, this is how it went. Really? Because I've got the proof.
And the exact same scrutiny should be applied to the school.
And I don't
we
want to
totally
hear. You don't know the whole story. You don't know the whole side. I'm listening. Your mouth's not moving. I can't hear what you're trying to say. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear you don't know the whole story.
Tell the whole story.
Tell it.
Tell it.
Tell it.
Shut us down.
You know
if
it.
we're wrong, we'll apologize. And
you know it.
I'll be the first one. I take responsibility for my actions. I like, bad news doesn't get better with time.
No.
Like, that was my philosophy when I was in the military. You know, like, if you did something wrong and it didn't cause loss of life, limb, or property, then we can correct that, get the proper training, and move forward. But if you did it and then you tried to cover it up for 2 months, and then I find out about it, there's no, like, now you know, and when you should have just came and said, hey, this is the mistake we made, because then you're making me look foolish, because there's things going on that you haven't been above board that right. If other people know, I look like a jackass because I'm like, oh, everything's great. And then and then 6 people are like, no, you have 3 soldiers that are doing this stuff and you're not fixing it. And it's like, well, if you don't tell me, I don't know.
Right.
And if they know and I find out that they knew and they were trying to cover it up, they're done. They will lose rank and pay or whatever else kind of punishment that could be non-judicial punishment they could get. But anyway, a little different situation. But the same thing, bad news doesn't get better with time. You can't hide and think things are going to go away.
No, it's not.
Just like he pointed out, and he asked questions, and so now that's going to make us ask questions, more pointed questions for us, because,
Yeah, it's already began, so.
yeah, like we're right there with you, and we want to make sure everything on our side is done just as like we want everything on your side is done properly. Like that's a standard that it's not a double standard. Like, yes.
I said it last night. I'll hold the superintendent and the board and the school just as accountable as anybody else.
Yeah, from
So
our individual,
right, exactly.
As much as we can as individuals. Now we can take things and try to get to do it as a board, but again, we're just individuals, just like Mr. Kessler is an individual.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he only has so much that he can do, but there are certain things that on the town governance side and on the school governance side that like you have to answer the question. You're held to account. You can't say you don't know the whole story. Like if there's more to the story and you can't talk about it, say there's a lawsuit pending, you don't know the whole story. Once that lawsuit comes out, maybe you'll get the whole story. Then we can say, all right, well, pending a lawsuit, we can't really comment anymore because otherwise it's just all speculation. But when we can take clips and see your own words and how they're not really adding up, that's where the issue is.
Yeah.
And it could have just been a mistake. But, you know, when it happens, it could start off as
if
a
it
mistake.
happens once,
right?
absolutely, yes, absolutely.
But then,
Not in this case.
No. It's
Not even close. But
there is something more to it, and that's what we're trying to find out. Like, what is the truth? And then we'll shut up.
yeah.
Right? Am I wrong?
No.
Like on that issue.
I'll
like,
just now be more involved with everything in the town, apparently, because apparently someone really needs to keep paying attention to what's happening, you know?
Well, that's the way it is across the country, by the way.
That's the way it should be.
But, like, it starts at the town level. If we
Yes.
can make things great here, then it kind of starts spreading.
Right.
And then people realize how great American freedom and individuality is. And then it can spread. And it's not just our town, right? You hope that other towns are trying to make things better, and regardless of whatever garbage is coming out of the Uniparty in Washington. But our best way of doing it is protecting ourselves here locally.
Yeah, and we can make this town even better than it is.
I mean, there's such a difference between a $3 million grant that was proprietary that didn't work versus a $28 million system. Like, there's nowhere in between, like a $10 million or $16 million system.
Oh, I did get Paul did answer that question for me. I forgot because I wanted to know, like, it was important to definitely know, like, how this all went down. So he said, in round numbers, legal costs were $1.5 million. We were awarded $3.4 million, and we owed the state about $2.5 million with interest. So we did not recover all the legal fees. However, the initial lawsuit was filed against us for not paying the bills to the engineer contractor, which was withheld because the project didn't work. And these defense fees we never would have recovered. Then when we countersued, they countersued for $3.4 million. So we didn't get all the money back, but we didn't lose necessarily.
Millions.
Yeah, we didn't lose.
That's good.
As much as it sounded like we potentially could have. And obviously, in that case, we had to defend ourselves, and we had to, like, they did what they had to do. That's
Right.
one of the,
Yeah. That's one of those.
But I wanted to, because I had asked that or wasn't sure, and we said on the show, so that was like the follow up to it, that we obviously didn't recover all of it, but the state didn't, because I figured, oh yeah, that's great. We spent $1 million to get the state's $3 million back. The state takes the $3 million, we lose $1 million, and it's not as cut and dry as that. It wasn't quite as bad as that, so which is good. So, all right, we'll jump to this. So some good news in a way out of Newport. Great job to the Newport Police Department. So on March 23rd, 2023, which was yesterday, Newport Police Department and its law enforcement partners continued investigation into an untimely death of Mark Hudson. And then subsequently to these investigation efforts, arrest warrants were issued to the following 5 subjects: Laura Ayotte, 50, Newport; Chris Ayotte Jr., 27, Newport; Jacob Ayotte, 19, Newport; Ryan Palmer, 32, Sunapee; and Candace Fontaine, 31 Newport. All 5 subjects are charged with one Class B felony for conspiracy to commit falsifying physical evidence, and one Class A misdemeanor for conspiracy to commit abuse of a corpse. The complainants allege that they conspired to unlawfully remove the body of Mr. Hudson and all the evidence from the scene of his death. So huge shout out to the police department for investigating this and getting these arrests and finding Mr. Hudson for his family. It's very unfortunate. I used to work with Mark back, it was like 20. I think we worked at the high school together. Like I was the custodian of CTE, and he was one of the places there. He was a good guy. I liked Mark. I think more recently got mixed up with the wrong people and drugs or whatever, and so it sounds like from what I put together from the story that he overdosed and then they just threw him in the woods from what I gather. So these 5 pieces of shit, in my opinion, should be thrown in jail and throw the key away, especially the top 3. And this is also rumor, but I'm still going to say it, and I'm going to say this is a rumor, so don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure the other 2 overdoses that happened in the last month happened at that exact house. And then someone told me yesterday, which is another hearsay thing, but it's like, there's actually been 6 people who have died in that house. So I want to see, so I guess they have an arraignment at 1 o'clock, and let's see what the judge does. Let's see if the judge holds them in jail or lets them out and then tries them later. This is one of the things that I talked about this last night. I've been talking to the chief about this, that we have and this isn't just Newport, this is everywhere, but I can't control everywhere. You can't control everywhere, but we have a huge drug issue in this town, and it's too big for the Newport Police Department to handle it. It's become so big that, I guess if he had 50 officers, he probably could handle it better. But without these convictions and all this happening, and if these judges are just going to let these people back on the street, and I'm hoping for the family's sake that this judge holds every one of them until trial, this can't keep happening. This can't keep happening in our community. How many people have to die before somebody says enough is enough? We need to stand up and do something. Because I'm telling you, the rate it's going and how things are, one of these days, it's going to be someone in that school.
I hope not.
I do too, trust me. But at what point, and everyone can say, wow, they're just a bunch of druggies. Really? Because those druggies had families, they had kids, they had people that loved them, and they didn't start out that way. And a lot of these druggies, they started out with Oxycontin that was pushed onto them by doctors or here, because they used to hand it out like Skittles, and then it got walked back, and now it's totally swung the other way, where if you need the meds, you can't even get them, which is just an overcorrect. But so the pharmaceutical companies, some of them have gotten sued. Purdue went out of business because they got sued, which, just another company bought them out. They're the ones that started the whole Oxycontin thing. Watch Dope Sick, it'll tell you about the scumbags every one of them are.
Or read the book.
This all stemmed from somewhere. Who knows? Maybe Mr. Hudson had some painkillers once because he hurt himself at work. He was a contractor. Or maybe Mr. Gray, same thing. Who knows how it started, right? And we all fear the story. You put that needle in your arm once, and you're hooked. And it's worse now. It's not just heroin, it's fentanyl.
Yeah, that's what
Chief
said. Lee had basically said that it's so, because you had asked, like, why, if they know it can kill everybody, it's because it's so much cheaper. So they can get.
And the high is big.
The bigger high, and it's cheaper to produce, and so,
and then
it's a write-off, I guess.
Chief was saying that they recently been putting like horse tranquilizers or whatever, animal tranquilizers with the meds, and someone said to me yesterday, like, oh yeah, they're doing that at that house. So, and like I said, that's also just hearsay, but and And I said to the chief, I said, so if in fact that amount of people have died in that house or are related to that house in the last short amount of time, then the Sullivan County Attorney's Office should, and I'm sure there's a way to do it, seize that property as a public health risk. And
You got all kinds of solutions.
I do.
Any of them legal?
There's legal ways. It's just a matter of.
I'm just, I mean,
But think about it.
I'm kind of being facetious
I
because
know.
it seems like we sharpshoot everybody.
Okay, but
You
how
know
many
what I mean?
people? How many people have to die?
No, I'm with you.
How many? Is the threshold 10 people in one house die in the exact same thing, and then we'll finally actually do something? Is it? What is it? And then I don't really agree with this per se, but they passed a law in the state a few years ago. Like, if I sold you drugs and you overdosed, I am tried with murder. Well, how come these people haven't been tried with murder? And see, I have a hard time with that because I might have sold you drugs, but I didn't force you to take drugs. So it's kind of, But in this case, when it involves multiple ODs and whatever, like now it's like allegedly. Yes, let's make sure we say that because it is allegedly. But like, at what point?
I don't know. It's like we talk about. We have to come together as a community and work together. It's almost like go watch an old Western and watch everybody gather up in the church and sit there and talk about what all they're going to do to fix the town and where the issues are coming from. But everybody's afraid to say, Stephen, you suck. You did this, or this decision you made sucks. And like, not make it personal, but like you made a poor decision. It's cost us this right here. How are we going to fix it?
Yeah.
Like you need to put money towards it because you're financially on the hook. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it should be all of us coming together. Like, that's real democracy, right? Is coming together. You don't want mob rule, right? So there's always a flip side of that. So you got to find somewhere in the middle, which is why we have the town governance, we have the school governance,
Right.
So that we can go and say, hey, we have an issue, man. Like, what are we doing about the drugs in this town?
Right.
And we know because Chief comes in and does like public service announcements, like, yes, it's bad. We acknowledge these things, but like at the end of the day, we can't stop somebody who's depressed and sad because they don't have any money, they don't have a job, whatever. They feel isolated, and then so they seek comfort.
You have no drug treatment facilities.
That's their coping mechanism.
You have nothing. You have jail, and at least I guess, because I used to be like, why are you wasting your money arresting this low level dealer who's just an addict? Because he's an addict. He needs treatment. He needs, like, you know what I'm saying?
And for people who think that when you're in prison or jail that there aren't any drugs there, there are.
Yeah, if you think that's the case,
Like,
then
you know what I mean? Like, you don't get arrested and then detox because there's no drugs available. Like, there's a underground.
oftentimes there's more drugs in jail than there is out here. But so what I said is, but I've kind of now changed my take on it because at least if you take that person that's that low level user seller, that at least if you put them in Sullivan County, at least there's a chance that they won't die in the next X amount of time there, and maybe they'll detox, and maybe with the Trails program and stuff, you can like start to help these people get off drugs. Where if we don't bother with these low level ones because of the cost involved, and we just skip to the upper ones, these ones are gonna die or sell to kill other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was kind of like, I once again take more information. I change my mind. I'm not so stuck in my ways. Like, oh no, this is what we should do. No, I personally, I think you need to go 5 steps above, and you need to crush these drug dealers. Like these people bringing them in from Connecticut and New York, whatever.
Yeah, you got to stop.
You need to crush them. Oh. Like life in prison, like done. That's how you stop it. It's like a family tree, right? Starts down, and then up here is the one person. Okay, Mexican drug cartels. Okay, well, we can't fix that in Newport, but we can come down here to these guys that are actually bringing it in here. You can just keep locking them up.
Yeah,
I don't know, but you have to do something because at what point it's getting worse and worse, and that's what sucked. And I said this before. COVID came in, and I feel like it effed everything up because before COVID, this was actually becoming a public thing that was talked about in the newspaper, the opioid epidemic, and then, yeah, so the state and government, whatever, settle some lawsuits. And I was like, okay, so where's all that money go? Some fund somewhere, the state. And Chief Lee did know something, but the fact that the money hardly ever gets back to the community.
Yeah, that's
So, because that money, like if you just got $100 million from a pharmaceutical company, the state of New Hampshire got it, every single community should get that portion of that to fight drugs. That's how it should work. Not, well, like, I don't know. Should be more simple, aren't because of bureaucrats and stupid things. But, and you're right. I don't have an answer of how we're going to fix it. I don't know. But I have some ideas I've talked to Chief about, and I hope soon we'll have something in place. I have an idea, but congratulations to the police department for this whole thing. Congratulations for all the hard work they do and the people they arrest, because even if we don't see these big headlines every day, like they're doing the job. But it's like this bottle. If I start poking holes in it, the PD can keep up. But then if I just cut the whole bottom out of that bottle, the PD can't keep up with that.
I'm reading about some new news, $10,000 per unit for new developments that are permitted within 6 months. So there's a timeline to it. So that might be why they're pushing you. But what are they going to do with the $10,000 per unit? What are they going to invest that in? Like my idea, granted I don't know, right? So I'm sure they already have it. Like if it approves, they have it in their mind. But this would be a good way to pay down some of the costs for this sewer plant. I mean, granted, it's only $1 million, but divide that out, like that's $1 million less that our residents have to come up with.
Well, 700,000 is 70 units,
right. But then there's the other developments.
I don't think that's involved.
It's just no. This makes it sound like he got $100 million from the federal government. So who knows what strings come with it? Like that's what other people don't realize is that there's strings attached to any. Like nothing's for free.
So think about it. If New Hampshire got $100 million, okay.
Yeah, the other
and
states.
All 50 states probably got at least $100 million. Look how much. Like
that's $500 million.
But we're $31.4 trillion in debt.
Yeah, because at a certain point in time, everybody has to stop like spending money and like look inward. Start at the town. Yes, we need repairs and we need a better facility, whatever. But like, I don't know. $28 million is a lot of money for a small town sewer treatment plant.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, there's an article on NHPR that kind of discusses the program that Jeff was mentioning last night. It's on NHPR. That's News from New Hampshire. And it was, let's see if it has an author, just in case anybody wants to read it. Casey McDermott, and it was published April 13th, 2022. If you just kind of want to read about Sununu's plan, and he acknowledges, by the way, the article, the way Governor Sununu sees it, New Hampshire's housing crisis, historically low vacancy rates, skyrocketing rents, and a market that is increasingly unattainable to low to moderate income residents is driven by a lack of supply. But here's the thing is all of that applies exactly as Newport, right? So $10,000 per unit added. At the end of the day, $700,000, yeah, that's a lot of money, but then it's not that much money.
Not
like as you can
$400,000 a year for kids, or
right? Like whenever you add all the costs in, because you're not getting 90 property taxes. You're getting one property tax, right? And then you have a 3-year abatement, which that happens across the country to encourage development. So I have an issue with it in the sense, just like you said, like we unfortunately are a poor town.
But he just thought of something else. So the town's going to get $700,000 out of this deal, okay? Which definitely shows why the town's pushing so hard for this to happen. But what the town's not thinking about is, okay, yeah, you got that one-time payday, but you're not thinking about the liability of the school. If we add another 30 kids to the school, what's going to happen if they or we had 30 or 40 or 50 kids. You already have a development going in on Spring Street of 42 units. I guarantee you there's probably going to be 20 kids in that right there. So, and then you add this one, if there's another 20. So there's 40 kids, okay? So now 40 kids is $800,000 in tax liability to the town. They're not going to be paying $800,000 in taxes between the two of them. And if they are, which I highly doubt, there's still added things like even on the town side, right? So when you're not thinking about that, you're thinking about, ooh, we can get some money from Sununu and we can do whatever. Okay, where are you thinking about your taxpayers and the break to them and how is this going to affect them? Oh, but we're going to get money.
Well, so I'm sure that they have an idea if they get that money, what they're going to spend it on.
Sure, but they're not thinking about the school.
Right.
That's the other half of it because
Well, they have a flippant thing, which I, as a taxpayer, get. Like I get it.
No, because they can do all the nice things. They can make the town look better. They get that stuff on that side of it, and then they can just blame the school for your high taxes. I've seen it. It's happening. It has happened for years.
You did it last night.
So, look what we're doing down here. We put these sidewalks in, and we did this, and we're doing this and this, and blah 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 blah. Oh yeah, well, but look at the school, man.
Go complain to the school.
Yeah,
that's what
complain
you
to the
said
school.
last night.
Complain to the school.
So y'all make up 2/3.
Oh, so
correct.
were you going to give half of that money to the school so that it helps the town out? No, of course not.
Yeah,
And this is why I said this before. When I make decisions on the school board, I think about the whole town as a whole. Because if it's going to hurt the town and the taxpayers, then no. Because I represent the whole town, not just the school board.
And what I've noticed attending town meetings and then as a member on the school board is that people spend grant money like it's like free money.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's it's quote unquote real money. It's not really free because it comes out of taxes.
Yeah.
And then it beholdens
sides.
us to, right? Like, so now we're reliant on other people's taxes in a system that hasn't recently, I won't say never, I correct myself, recently been a balanced budget nationally. And I say that, the reason why I'm talking nationally is because most of these are federal grants, right? Or the $100 million Sununu is going to spend is from the federal government.
Right, and then we'll get a grant from the state, but it still came from the federal government.
Right.
And most of this does come from the federal government in some way. Like with the sewer treatment plant, USDA, it's federal. So,
but you got to ask yourself, so how from 1776, 1778 to 1913 did they pay for everything, all of the
Tariffs.
infrastructure and everything else without taxing us as individuals?
Tariffs, import taxes.
Right.
And then suddenly it was like, oh, we can tax the people. And then they haven't stopped since.
I mean, have you ever, I know everybody has the same complaint, but just in my head, my retirement basically goes to pay taxes between property and federal taxes. Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
I planned out my whole life from 15, or even before then, but like had this great vision, retired, successful. I feel like I had a successful career. Somebody might argue with me, but I did. And now all my money goes to taxes. And so, if just it drives me nuts. I appreciate that my wife works, which is mostly to pay off her student loans, right? So between taxes and loans, then we got like $700 electric bill. I mean, what the hell? What changed to all of a sudden electricity is in short supply?
It's Biden's war on fossil fuels. All right, I got two national stories to talk about real quick. I don't want to just wrap the show up, but there's this new report that the U.S. government is funding over 500 projects to track misinformation and speech patterns using artificial intelligence to censor you. So congratulations, everyone. Your government, once again, is trying to censor your speech.
I mean, they have been. If you read the Twitter files, it's ridiculous, and you all should be concerned about the country that you live in.
Listen,
if you think it's okay to censor anyone, you're crazy and you're un-American.
Move to another country.
You're a communist in my eyes. Like, I got no room for you to think that yeah, you shouldn't be saying that. Like, you can say whatever you want unless it's like fighting words or whatever, right? Like, that's about the only thing. No such thing as hate speech. Now, there's should you say it, and if you're thinking it, and I say it all the time. Be who you are, because then you'll be around people that want to be around you. And then just be yourself.
So
you can.
And this whole censorship thing was
BS, man. Like, this is America. Say what you want.
The censorship thing was very.
And I'm off the walls on the whole freedom thing, right? Like, you can kneel for the national anthem. I just won't watch your sports programs anymore.
Right.
Right? Like, I have a freedom to associate. Like, you think that's okay. Good on you. I'm not going to watch it. You can do it. I'm not trying to stop you from doing it. Now, if I were your employer and I said, hey, stand, and then you don't, then I would fire you.
Right, because you're an employee. And you're
like, there's like that. Your freedom of speech is taken away if the contract or whatever says you'll go out on the field, be respectful during the national anthem, and then execute and play, and then, I mean, I'm sure those contracts, they probably don't talk about that, but, like, I mean, you're making a lot of money. Do what you're freaking told to do. If you don't want to do it, then don't play sports.
Yeah.
And then say, I quit because they won't let me kneel and I disagree with these policies in America. Like, it's as old as the Bible. It tells you that if you want to stand, like, you got to be willing to give up everything to stand up for what you believe in. Like, that's one of the lessons to learn if you ever read the New Testament anyway, is you're going to have to give it up. Because life isn't, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to stand on your principles, and it applies to me and you too. Like, if I really wanted to do whatever, then, like, I need to sell all this and just become like a vagabond driving around in a car, trying to motivate people to remember what America stands for, the greatness that we built. Like, I have nothing to apologize for. Now, have we done things wrong? Yes, obviously. That's why I don't trust the federal government. Because I probably know more than most people because I worked for them and I've seen it. Like, I've been a part of it. So when I say these things, they're not like hyperbole, Stevens making some stuff up. These are my experiences. You might have had different ones. You might have different expectations or whatever. But mine, you're not going to change it. I know what I saw. I know what I dealt with. I know that there's corruption and there's horrible people getting promoted through the ranks that don't deserve to be there. You can look at the federal government and see that right now, all the jackwagons that can't answer questions that they're getting nominated for.
Yeah.
Like, one judge the other day, like, they were like, how many times have you been overturned? Like, you've been overturned more than anyone else. Like, why would you nominate a judge that's constantly being overturned? I know why. Because you like his BS, non-American, non-constitutional decisions. And you want to force that on a larger group of people. Yeah. Anyway,
so if you can
want
tell,
to trigger me, man.
You can tell this whole misinformation, this crap here.
Malinformation. This is information that is true, but it will influence people the way that we don't want to be influenced. I'll say it again.
Exactly.
Look up the Smith-Mundt Act whenever they added it to the the National Defense Appropriations budget. They can use propaganda against us. It's in the law. Like, you can go and read the
Obama did it.
2012. They are now allowed to put fake stuff on the TV to influence your decisions. Like, it's in there. Like, I'm not making this up. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I opened up that NDAA. I found it where it says it. I processed it with my own mind, and it allows them to do what the State Department does. And if you think the State Department's not all over the world trying to influence everybody, look at how they're spending millions of dollars in Pakistan to promote homosexuality when they'll
stone you to death there.
Yeah, that's very un-Pakistani. Like, that's not.
What's the study? How many rocks will it take to kill this person?
No, it's to try to influence, which we've said it before. Once you're, I don't care how you live your life. Don't push it on kids. Do things with, in your own privacy, whatever.
Right.
But I don't have to live in your fantasy world. And my kids don't have to be introduced to your fantasy world if I don't want them to be. It's that simple.
Well,
there's nothing hateful about it. Like, I have no qualms, but don't expect me to live in your fantasy land.
Yeah. So
I see you triggered me.
I can tell. So Twitter All right, so supposedly they're gonna arrest Trump, right? That all fell through yesterday, which is good. But
I never understood that because I remember
the whole thing's fucking complete BS because he paid off Stormy Daniels. And do you know in New York City or in New York,
he
legally
didn't.
can?
Like there's a
No,
letter.
a lawyer paid her or something.
Right. Like, but there's all kinds of
There's
stuff that
nothing.
came out years ago on this. That's why I've always been like, why is he going after this? Because
But here's a censorship thing. Twitter had it everywhere. Facebook, I found like nothing, and I already see stuff on Facebook. So Facebook was censoring it because, like I said, Twitter was everywhere with
if you
it.
read the Twitter files, they have like an army between all the different federal agencies
They're all working with
that
them.
like send in and say, "Oh, Tim and Steve said something about the federal government today. Can we tag that? It looks like it violates your policy."
Yeah, the show
So
probably
that's
uploads
called
somewhere.
fascism. It's
Oh,
real
no,
fascism,
no.
or corporatism. As
Did you see AOC the other day? AOC said something about it's fascism to, what was it? She was on the House floor, freaking going off on stuff, and
the actress AOC.
yeah, she was going off saying it's fascism to, man, I wish I remember this. See, this is what I was going to screenshot.
A potential parents' rights bill.
Yes,
with
parents'
fascism.
right bill is fascism. So you having rights to your children, that's fascism. Like, and we should do a whole show on this thing because there's way more to it than just what we're saying here. So, but
Do some historical research. Use a browser like Tor. Go to some other country that's not as censored as ours is, and research history.
the reality is your government is after your kids, and we can paint this picture clear as day. Let's do it on another show next week and I really think we should because we talked earlier off air a little bit about something that you can see it clear as day.
You're responsible when
You're only criminal. Exactly. So, and then the last thing I just wanted to mention before we wrap up is this was under oath. Rand Paul asked maybe the CEO of Moderna or someone from Moderna, and the NIH was paid $400 million in royalties last year from Moderna.
Yeah, and
$400 million.
To be fair,
Well, Pfizer, I'm sure, paid the same.
but what the rest of that sentence is, just so everybody knows, was he said that it was not for COVID stuff; it was for other things like that. That's the rest of that sentence. So
why are any pharmaceutical companies giving anyone money like that?
Well, no,
except to buy influence.
Right. So that's the important thing. It's the NIH, who's supposed to be looking out for our best interest, is getting 400. How much did you say? Million?
400 million.
400
Just last
million
year.
from a pharmaceutical company that they're supposed to be
That's a payout.
helping to regulate and
Yeah.
and put checks and balances on.
In this-
Now, if this is a hypothetical, but if the town decided to support the show, let's say, and gave us $1 million, I'd be like, Hunter's the greatest thing ever.
Hunter,
But
he's on to something. $1 million, support the show. I will turn all this 100% 180.
that's the
I will
that's
sell
the,
my soul.
That's the metaphor I would use, right? Like that's
Yeah, and keep in mind, like, too, the CDC is
also in the same boat. They get
number one
they get
sponsors,
royalties.
Pfizer and Bill Gates. Oh, wait.
The CDC is not part of our federal
No.
government.
Everyone thinks it is. I used to think it was. It's not.
No, that's why it's always the center of zombie outbreaks in movies is because they're not. They do whatever they want, basically.
Yeah, just
And
give
they
some
tell
money.
us.
Yeah.
And they're involved with a lot of things because if like even part of our wellness committee, it's a CDC checklist.
That you volunteered me for. You know that's not going to go well, right? I'll be kicked off that committee.
No, it's fine. You'll be all right.
I'll be kicked off the committee. All right, meme of the day, and then we're wrapping this up. We should have saved this sucker.
We'll save it. I sent you like 9, didn't I, recently?
All right, I got a better one. We'll save that one for the next show. The tables have turned due to New York City's uptick in crime. If you wear a mask, no entry. Remember when you would get arrested if you didn't do these things to go maybe to the grocery store so you could feed your family? Well, now they won't let you in if you're wearing a mask because there's so much crime. Who could have seen that coming?
Anybody that thought critically.
Anyone with a freaking brain in their head.
Hey, so as soon as they put more cameras up, I'll be walking around with a mask on. Like, you're just not going to tell me to wear a mask. But once, like, I need to get, they have glasses that you can get that whenever they try to look at you, it distorts the camera.
Huh?
Need to get that too.
Fancy spanchy.
Hey, I do not want to live in a police state, and all you got to do is look at those kinds of decisions that were done in the past to where it doesn't take much fear to get everybody to turn on each other and try to force you into the kennel, into the chute.
Did you know that the gym in Newport was threatened? That if they didn't close their doors, like, we're going to sue them, put you in jail, like all this stuff.
For what?
During COVID. Yeah.
Who threatened them to, do you know?
Sure. I confirm later.
See, but that's what fear does to people.
I wouldn't have closed it.
No, I'd have been like the gym guy in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Which obviously is what Mr. North and them did, right?
I don't know.
Did they close it?
I think for a little while they had to, or they did. But there was something too where they were going after insurances, like, we'll call your insurance company or something, like, and then obviously people are like, oh, shit, without insurance, I'm screwed.
Yeah, see, everything's a
sneaky little
threat.
bastards.
Everything is money.
And I'm not saying this was a town. I don't know who it was.
No, I got you. No, I could see it just being some crazy
It wasn't a town,
individual.
actually. I think it was the state, but someone, dimed on them or something apparently. But I don't know. Anyways, I will have
America.
more. I'll have more stuff probably to put out on What's Up Newport today or tomorrow. So, whatever. Don't lie. Don't lie about things, and you won't have to worry about it. And people need to get involved. And so, the next select board meeting on the 3rd, please show up. Ask questions. Please show up on April 4th, the next day on Tuesday, at the Newport Gym. That's our deliberative for the voting of all the warrant articles. One of our school involved ones on there is the bus barn that we were evicted from, and it is for a 99-year lease for $1 a year, because obviously kicking us out of the bus barn is going to cost the town taxpayers, me and you, more money. So yeah, there's that, and we'll talk more when we get closer to it. But hey, thanks for watching. Get involved, ask questions, email if you have like things that, and if you have any ideas about like what the hell we can do with these huge, like this huge drug issue that we are all seeing everywhere, like
nationwide, but also here.
Like, what can we do? There's something we can do, and then man, if we can do something here, then maybe Claremont can try to do it, and if it works there, like this is how this country was founded, and this is how this country was like has always risen to the top because we got together and we're like, we can fix that because when we work together, we can do anything. I still believe that, and you won't take that from me. Like, I believe that as a country, when we come together,
there's nothing that can stop us. No.
So it's time for us to come together and do that. Let's end this. Let's stop this. Let's stop this for our kids and for everybody. Like, craziness.
And if I missed where they talked about the $10,000, because I try to watch all the shows, I apologize, but I did not know that was part of it. But then what are we doing with the 10? And if you said that, again, I apologize, but maybe you need to remind everybody, like, what benefit
when someone calls you out about it, just say, oh, hey, this is some part of it. Oh, all right.
Yeah. That could have been an easy fix.
No, let's not do that, though. All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Artlist.io